from a job person compared to an entrepreneur is very different. Entrepreneurs, business people create jobs, add value to the society, and that is why business is considered as one of the most value added contribution that humans can make, give back to the society. Of course, doing that in the best possible manner. Now, starting a business, starting a halal business, in my opinion, and we will get to the panel shortly, all businesses halal. As long as we, basically remain within the domains set by, by the commands of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. As long as we are, truthful, honest, hardworking, we do not cheat, we do not lie to sell our products, we do not deceive our customers, we try to give them best service. This is all halal activities. As long as you're not going into the non-halal activities, all businesses are inherently halal. Even you can do a halal business, but if you end up doing non-halal things, like you are cheating on your customers, you're not disclosing it properly, you are not following the law properly, that still will not be considered as a halal business. So with that, I will, now go to Dr. Numan Farooqi. And as a background, I have the honor to be his student. Dr. Numan is an excellent, teacher, mentor, and a prolific speaker. He has, tons of research at his hands. He is currently chairing the business department at Mount Allison University. So he's joining us from there. Over to you, sir, and thank you very much again.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Shahbaz, and a very warm welcome and greetings from New Brunswick. For those of you that have been following the COVID-19, you must have heard the news that starting midnight tonight, the province of New Brunswick, the whole province is under lockdown. So you've closed the borders. We can't leave. Nobody can come inside. So we have been frantically working, trying to figure out, the students leaving the university, what's going to happen to the exams. We still have, a couple of days left for the end of the semester. So it's been just a very crazy day. So I apologize if I'm a bit scatterbrained today because it's been just non-stop action, if you will, So let me start off by also thanking Shahbaz for the very kind invitation, and I had the honor of kind of being a professor in a couple of courses that Shahbaz took many years ago, and mashallah, we have stayed in touch, and it's good to have him as a colleague, and we've shared on kind of discussions on various topics. So alhamdulillah, it's really good to see him thriving and settled down in the beautiful community of Kannada. So let me just kind of kickstart by saying that I'm no expert at this. I'm also a student like a lot of you, and I'm in the process of learning. But one thing I've seen over the years is that, and this is kind of obviously proven by research that has been happening, that entrepreneurship and innovation essentially is going to be the leading economic engine that is going to move us forward. That's where all the opportunity is. That's where the future is, if you will. And one of the things that I think so we need to encourage not only young people, but people across the spectrum in different age groups is to explore the entrepreneurial opportunities and the opportunities in that innovation space that we may find. And when I talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, it is in a much broader sense. We can talk about obviously entrepreneurship and innovation in the for-profit business sense, but also in the social innovation space, if you will. So I think so that's one thing we need to encourage, and we don't do a lot of that encouragement because I think so over the years, we when students come to in my world, when they come to university, and they're getting ready for work and life after graduation, they're mostly focused on getting a job and 9 to 5, and nothing wrong with that, but I think so what we do is that unfortunately we scare those students. They come in with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and we scare them, and very few of the brave ones actually go out and start something. So I think so we need to encourage more of that. And in my role, I teach courses in entrepreneurship and venture capital, and I try to encourage my students to go out and really kind of venture out into that space. And it's easy, because it's a low risk environment. They're already living in with friends. They don't have a lot of expenditure. They're not married. So it's really easy to transform their lives and kind of, go and explore some entrepreneurial opportunities. They obviously have the insurance policy of having a degree. So, if in case if that doesn't work out, they can certainly go back and find a job and get back into the stream. The other thing that's really been brought into the focus is this whole COVID-19 situation that has really changed the way people are thinking at careers, at opportunities, the importance of location, the importance of being in a certain area. So we saw that transformation of, of a global citizen, of skill sets that could be transferred across countries, across continents, across oceans and what have you. But now we see more of that because we have seen a practical implication or implication of working from remote places, and being able to provide service to, companies across the spectrum and customers across the spectrum. The other thing that's happened because of COVID-19 is that there has been a lot of retrenchment. There has been a lot of layoff. And a lot of companies who have retrenched, they are now looking at a different model. They're looking at the fact that, do we need to employ all of these people? Do we need to bring on all of the people that we had hired earlier on? Or can we essentially, kind of cut down on our workforce and then subcontract bits and pieces of it to other people who can do that as independent consultants or as entrepreneurs? So I think so that's another interesting opportunity that we need to explore. I don't know about Kannada, but in New Brunswick, we have just recently it was unveiled that as a policy, the government of New Brunswick is going to be bringing in almost 7,500 to 10,000 new immigrants every year for the next 10 years. We are a small province. The number of people in the entire province is about 750,000, 770,000 people. That's the entire province. So if you imagine in 10 years' time, we are talking about a significant increase in the population. And these immigrants coming in bring with them skill sets. They do not have transferable credits, kind of degrees that can actually be changed, that can be transferred into regular jobs. So they're looking at all of these entrepreneurial opportunities. And most of these people that are coming in, a significant majority of them are going to be coming in from Muslim countries. They will be Muslims. And the reason is because New Brunswick, as you may know, is the only bilingual province in Canada. So we have English and French, which are both officially recognized. So we have a lot of Muslims coming in from the North African countries, Algeria, Tunisia, and they're looking at opportunities in which they can get into a business which is, as Shahbaz mentioned, a business which is halal. They want to stay away from, some of those opportunities in the banking sector and what have you. Now, this brings me to another interesting area, which is of my personal interest. And that is when you talk about entrepreneurship and innovation, one of the essential features for growth in that area is the ability to provide funding for growth, right? And the typical, area or typical institutions that we go and knock on are the banks and financial institutions. And we know there's a certain kind of issue that we have with interest, right? And that kind of holds back some people. I've seen some successful entrepreneurs over there who have the opportunity of growing their business, but they don't grow it exponentially because they don't want to take a loan. They want to grow organically, and that really stunts their growth. So if you think about this opportunity that entrepreneurs have at one hand who are looking at setting up and running a halal business and the lack of funding, if you will, and you think about the concept of venture capital that we have, uh, available, and if you look at the essence of venture capital, in its sense, it is an Islamic concept because it is based on the principle of risk and return. Right?
So, Dr. Faruqi, I think if you can speak closer to the mic, I guess we are, getting some, echo and some, voice is a little choppy. Uh, Thank you.
So that is what happens when I convert these. Is this better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we use Microsoft Teams, and anytime I transfer from Microsoft Teams to Zoom, all the settings go crazy.
All right.
So,
So maybe
so
that's the business opportunity for somebody from the tech background to,
yeah,
create a solution for that.
find the
Yeah.
solution to that. So what
So,
I
but
would
Allah, can you mute everyone else so that the noise is reduced? Please, thank you. Please, Doctor, go ahead.
So basically, I was talking about the opportunity within venture capital for providing funding on a risk return basis, right? And that is absolutely halal. That is allowed for us. And so I've been encouraging, communities and not only in Canada but in Pakistan also to really create these venture capital funds that will allow our entrepreneurs to really be able to access these funds which are not tainted by interest, if you will, and so there has been a lot of movement in that area, and I would encourage communities that are growing. Just like I was looking at your masjid, mashallah, you've been able to secure a loan, an interest-free loan. So it could be an interesting thing as a next step to provide for the creation of some kind of a venture fund that could be accessible by entrepreneurs who want to expand their business, want to set up a business, but don't want to go to regular financial institutions. That's one point. The other point, and I'll close with that and I'll open the floor for some questions, is the fact that when we talk about halal business, one of the issues that I think so we are really kind of not focusing on is the fact that if we are providing a good quality service, it's not only Muslims that can be our customers, it can be a larger market that we can address. And I'll give you an example, I get halal meat, from the local place, and I had one of my Canadian friends who came in for dinner to my house, and so obviously, we had meat. That's an important part of our diet. So he had the meat, and he was just totally amazed at the quality of meat, and he said, "Where did you get the meat from?" And I said, "Well, we get it from a certain place, and it is halal." And so he said, "What is halal?" So I explained to him what is halal. And a couple of days later, he called me and he said he's done some research, and actually, that's such a healthy kind of a way and a very humane way of sacrificing the animal. Can you tell me where you got the meat from? And he's been eating halal meat ever since. He's not a Muslim, but he's been eating that. So the point I'm trying to make is that when we are talking about a halal business, when we're talking about opportunities that and typically when our people set up things, they're talking about catering to our community. I really would like to encourage people to think about, a larger audience, a bigger market. So when we go to, let's say, I go to New York City and I go to Citibank or Bank of America, I don't go into a Bank of America Christian bank, or I don't go to a, City Bank which is run by Jews or what have you. I go there because of the service that I get. I go there because of the products that I get. So similarly, when we talk about at another level, Islamic banks, they're called Islamic banks, but I think so we need to expand that market by providing products and services that cater to the needs of a larger community. And if we can do that, we can increase the potential customer base, decreasing our costs, and really being able to provide much more better quality of service and products to our core customers who are Muslims. So I'll close with these couple of words, and look forward to the conversation and discussion.
Sure. I think, Dr. Farki, you raised really interesting points, especially in terms of, addressing the, basically, enlarging the market that any business would like to, address. And, certainly consumers are consumers, right? So if you are providing good quality stuff, it is irrespective of, their background, whosoever can consume at that right price, that should be the spirit. Before I open the floor for wider questions, since, and I know it, firsthand, you have been involved in mentoring people, and you alluded to that in your remarks as well. Youngsters who come into, academic institutions, with that lot of, enthusiasm to, grow, basically, get out of the university and, basically rule the world. And you said, some of that enthusiasm is somehow gets sidelined because of the monotony or because of the education system that they go into. how can you, what can you suggest to the youth, that are listening today, that they can, go through the normal university, basically get their insurance, as you said, the degree, and then still create, still keep that spark of entrepreneurship, so that when they leave the university, they have this mindset that they're going to create this value back to the society.
Certainly, I think so. The important thing is that typically in an undergrad 4 year period, there's so many opportunities of experimenting. You've got the summer, you've got an opportunity of maybe opening up a kiosk in a mall, or setting up a business. I had one student who really entrepreneurial student. He got a $1,000 automatic donut making machine from China, like one of the small donut making machines. It was $1,000, and he put it in the back of his pickup, and he would go to all the Sunday markets. And in that 16 weeks that he was doing that, he made $24,000.
Wow.
So again, like, once he did that, it is addictive. He said, you know what, if I had two machines, I could do this. If I had 10 machines, I could then, have people going out and doing it at so many different fairs and other places. So what I would encourage the youth is that, take some chances. And again, it's not necessary that you spend like thousands of dollars, kind of setting up something, but take some chances, try it out. And entrepreneurship is not everyone's cup of tea, right? People sometimes they don't have the temperament, they don't have the the patience or the courage to do those things. But try it out for once, and if you try it out, and if you really like it, it's addictive, and then you will really be motivated to do more and more and more. So I would encourage people to take some chances during the 4 years. If they don't want to do that themselves, then go ahead and do an internship with a startup company, with an entrepreneurial venture. Get a first-hand feel, and especially in Kannada, you've got so many technology companies and startups. Be a part of those companies and see the kind of addictive adrenaline rush that you get by being a part of that group of people who are really pushing the limits of their endurance and the boundaries of innovation.
Very well said, Dosa. Very well said. So we can open the floor for a couple of questions, and then we can move on to Shahzad. Allah, brother Allah, any questions?
No, not on my side. Thank you.
I have a question here on the chat. What are some ideas or suggestions for exploring entrepreneurship with low startup cost and low commitment?
So I think so. Low startup cost is something. There are many ideas. I think so with low startup costs, but I would beg to disagree in terms of low commitment. Because entrepreneurship is something that you really need to be passionate about, because it's so easy to give up. It is so easy to just kind of say it's very difficult and I want to walk away. So I think so. The commitment has to be high. The cost can be low, but the commitment has to be high. I'll give you an interesting example. When I was a student in the US, this is the time when the Berlin Wall was being taken down, right? So there was a student in my university. He saw it on television. He got a ticket on his credit card. He didn't have the money, and he flew to Berlin. Over there, he bought, I don't know, 5 tons or 20 tons of the rubble, of the junk, of the bricks that came down from the wall. He put them in a cargo plane, again using his credit card to pay the bill, sent it to St. Louis. He got small velvet, what do you call,
Frames.
Yeah, pockets made, velvet pouches made, very fine gold pouches made, put the rocks into that, and had a small piece of paper which said a piece of history, a piece of Berlin Wall, and sold it for $20. So again, like, and again, he paid off his credit card debt several times over. And he actually flew back 4 or 5 times to get more junk from there, more rubble from there, So again, I think so there's several of these ideas. It's just the opportunity to kind of, think about, using your observation, and looking at the place where you are. So, depending on the location, there are opportunities within your environment that you can look at.
No, that's a great example. By any chance, do you know which of the which wall is falling next, so that some people can start thinking and planning about that. While we wait for this question, this answer, we have another question. Could you elaborate more on venture capital funds in Canada and if they are available?
So certainly venture capital funds are available. There are many companies in Canada and in the US, very big companies, very big partnerships that provide venture capital, and Shahbaz is in that space also. So there are many companies, but unfortunately, and this is like my pet kind of kind of complaint, is that when you look at Islamic banks and you look at Islamic funds, venture capital space is a space that we should be occupying as Muslims, because rather than trying to do banking, Islamic banking, trying to fit the Western banking mold, right? And trying to create all of these mechanisms to justify interest in some form or the other, right? Venture capital is based 100% on risk return partnership. So I think so that's where our natural territory is for Muslim countries or Muslims, to kind of really be engaged and involved and create these venture funds which are to the core, which are very close to our core beliefs. So there are very few Muslim or Islamic venture capital funds. Slowly and gradually they are building up. I know there are a couple in Pakistan, there are a couple in Middle East, but very small, very small compared to the humongous size of the other players in the venture capital space, and that's unfortunate that that's where we should really be very strong in as Muslims.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Dr. Farooqi. There's one last question for you, and if you have time, please stay with us. I think you've stirred very interesting notes, and I'm sure people will have some follow-up questions. But I'll take this one last question before I go on to a person who has first-hand knowledge about venture capitalists. So the question is from. Vidala, do you see that question? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see the
This
question.
question is: entrepreneurship requires a lot of serious commitment, as you rightly said, Dr. Farooqi. Would you advise that new graduates focus on starting a business completely, or better to balance that with a full-time job? I think that's an interesting question to ask, especially from the youngsters' point of view. What should they be focusing on?
In my humble experience, limited experience, anytime I've seen people try to do both, they don't justify either one of those two things. And
Okay.
the thing is, like, and just imagine, it's human nature. If I have a guaranteed paycheck coming from a job, and then I am going in the evenings and doing something, there'll be difficulties, there'll be challenges, there'll be really significant things. And if I have that, kind of, that safety net, oh, I can go back to the job, my commitment will not be there. I know it's a big leap of faith, kind of burning all your boats and kind of saying, this is it, I have to do that. But that is the thing, that is what drives entrepreneurship. That is what the entrepreneur
That's right.
does. That,
That's
he
right.
or she really, it's like kicking somebody into the swimming pool and saying, swim now, because the only thing is death or life. They got to survive, right? So I
Yeah.
think so and there are people who do that, but I think so there are exceptions, not the norm.
So, no, I think, thank you very much. I think that was an excellent answer. And I saw Shahzad and Danish smiling, because these two gentlemen have this special thing in them, that they've tried to run both things and they've run it successfully. So, Dr. Saab, thank you very much. I'll just go on to introduce Shahzad, our the next speaker. Shahzad, I think you don't need any introduction. You are well known to the community. We are so fortunate to have you amongst us. Shahzad is basically a PhD from University of Cambridge, and he's done his MSc from US, and he has successfully launched companies and basically sold them off at a profit as well. So Shahzad, if you can, take some time to, discuss the topic that you had in mind today. The difference between the startups, from the IT software development point of view, and the traditional startups. But before you do that, because Dr. Faruqi had mentioned about this student of his who went to China and got this donut maker machine, and then he sold it off and made $24,000 out of it. That's an inspiring story. And I also I heard about another story where a gentleman went to China and he wanted to basically, import equipment to run his halal kitchen and halal food establishment. And when he finalized the deal and everything, so he was basically, buying it for his owners. So he said, now that I have made the deal, what is the kickback that I can get? So, the supplier said, okay, you get 20%, take home, And once the deal was signed and done, so the gentleman said, okay, now that you've closed the deal, can you take me to halal food? So I don't know what type of halal food he was looking at, but, so just halal does not mean anything if and until and unless you are actually living and breathing it. So with that, I go to you, Shahzad. Please, feel free to jump in from where you want.
Thank you much, Shahbaz bhai. Really appreciate the invitation and really appreciate all the time and attention that the community has put to this really important topic. So one thing I want to first point out is that starting a business is not difficult. A lot of people think that becoming a business owner is something that you need to work 40 years for. It If you want a sole proprietorship, you literally have to say that I am Shahzad Khan and Associates, and you can start running a business. And for the gentleman who was asking about ideas where they can actually
Mhm.
have a business on the side, there's a forum on Reddit, which is a major news site, and it's called Sweaty Startups. So you have all the type of businesses over there where you can put in your energy, you can get some equipment, you can maybe hire a few people, and you can do the type of businesses where you're painting houses or cutting lawns or starting a home-based catering business and so on. So there is lots of ideas. Um, the area which I've focused on over the past probably 2 decades, either as working at startups or as running my own or at leadership at other startups, is in software. Now, the economics of software is a bit different compared to many other businesses because what businesses have in common is, first of all, you have a customer and the customer has a need and you are providing either goods or services to satisfy that need in order for them to pay you money. This is basically the fundamental business model. And then inside the business, you effectively have people, processes, and technology, right? You have yourself who's working. You might have other people working as well. You have processes which may be as simple as checklists you follow or steps you go through, or they may be full-fledged software processes that are automated. And then you have technology, which could be a machine to cut a bagel, or it could be like a database to store a billion records, or so on. And on the basis of this, you provide, as long as you're providing services to your customers that are reliable, that's better than they could have built themselves, either it's faster or cheaper or higher quality, or they know that they won't get poisoned when they buy a bagel from you versus when they make it, themselves. So they will purchase from you as long as your reputation is good. When you switch this model over to the software world, it gets really interesting because when you make a bagel or you get rock from Germany or the Great Wall of China or whatever, wherever the next wall is, um, there is a cost of acquiring the resources, transforming it, and so on. With software, every additional user typically, or a copy of the information that you're offering to the next customer, is essentially almost for free. So when it comes to software, the economics are really interesting because the margins are really high for each additional user. You end up having something which is closer to like, looking for oil, where it's like when you actually find something that clicks, it becomes big very quickly because you keep reinvesting. And you notice that software companies for years, they're typically running at a loss. Amazon, I think, only started making a profit over a decade into when they started from. And they every year are worth so much more. And the reason for this is just because of the economics. Like every additional user doesn't cost you anything, and you get almost a full value from it. So you'll notice software companies, they're pouring money into three areas. They're pouring into engineering, which is the equivalent of like building up the operators to search for the oil or search for the next pharmaceutical kind of like vaccine or drug. They're pouring money into sales and marketing because they need to grow as fast as possible. And then the third thing they're putting money into is customer service, just to retain their customers. Because with software, when you have a global market, you essentially have what's called a winner take all type of scenario, where you can have a company that basically takes most of the market and can be worth billions of dollars. And the interesting thing about software companies is you don't need much to start them. So you literally need access to a computer. You may not even need to know how to program yourself because you can hire programmers that can do the work, but you need to know how to manage them, right? So you have to have an idea, and you can. There is this famous VC, Mark Andreessen, who basically said that software is eating the world. About half the jobs in the next 30 years are going to be automated away. They'll be done through software. If you go to the airports, you used to have in the past kiosks where you could go and buy the duty free shops and stuff. And nowadays, you go there, it's like a big vending machine. If you go to the Sobeys or any of the shopping kind of like grocery stores, there is the traditional checkout, but there's also ones where you can do the self checkout, and that's all automated through software. Your corner bookshops have gone away, right? There are few left, and most of the purchases now happen online just because of the sheer number of variety that you can get. Because people will always go for the technology, sorry, for the service or good that is cheaper, better, and can give them more options, which you get with software. So the VC is which Siddiq of Farooq Saab basically pointed out is an essential point um, to make this successful, because you need to have access to capital. Because if you don't have access to that capital, after a while you cannot grow. But every company does not need to become a billion-dollar company. Um, one of the interesting one of the first ventures I heard of online was this person who created what was called the million pixel website. And he literally created a website where he had a picture with 1 million pixels on it. And he was selling each pixel for $1. It was like a big advertising thing. It was one of the first websites in the world. So he made over $1 million essentially advertising because of all the excitement that was there and all the traffic that was coming to this website. And there were like all these logos all over. So you can find that. There was a gentleman about, I think, 15 years ago in Canada who started a blog. It was called bankrate.com. And he basically started doing all sort of research on kind of like mortgage rates. And he was writing stories, and this research, he was putting it on a blog. And then what happened is that one day, one of the banks, and then he was running advertising on his site through Google. And then one of the banks noticed that some of their best performing ads were coming from his site. So they came to him and they offered him that we want to buy your site and then hire you. So they bought his site for $1.5 million. And because the value that the bank was getting were all these leads. And when you're getting a car, a lead is worth about $300. When you're getting a lead for a mortgage, it's worth significantly more, right? Because the banks make a lot of money. So you just need to kind of like find something that that clicks. Um, Now, the other interesting thing about software is that your competitive advantage grows as you understand the customer better, as your brand gets better, as your process get better. So there's always like a number one in the field, and then they own about like half the market. Then there might be a number two and a number three. So it's like, it's almost getting to the point where there are ethical questions coming out about whether these software companies should be treated as monopolies or not. When you look at something like Facebook or Google, for example, there are active antitrust discussions happening about potentially breaking them up, right? So there is a lot of power and influence at stake over here. And we as a community need to make sure that we are also present And the interesting thing is that most of these companies, they have a large number of people from our community who are key critical members of that are doing the research, that are doing the science, that are doing the all the stuff that makes them successful. So there's no difference between kind of like, our capability and other groups capability out there. The difference is that we need more people that we can look at as role models and say that, look, we have had people in our community who have succeeded, so we should also be able to succeed because they can tell us what we need to do. And I've been running my company for about 10 years now. When I look at the number of people I deal with, like in the local community, in the startup ecosystem, the people I've given internships to, the customers I've worked with, there are thousands of people every year that I deal with. So it's like, we, as Shahbaz Bhai was mentioning, like when you see that 90% of the risk comes through business, it's true, because this is effectively like a central node in our ecosystem. It gives employment, it gives services, money flows through it, and the health of the companies are so important that governments are willing to change their policies. They change their tax rates, they change their incentives just to support the companies. When the pandemic hit and a lot of companies are getting really shaky, the government realized that, look, if we let these companies collapse, when the pandemic goes away, we won't have the fabric on which our society will have to rebuild. And as Canadians, I'm very happy that our government has been farsighted to really support the companies, because this means that when we go back after the pandemic, Canada will snap back very quickly, and all these companies will be hardened. They'll be resilient. In other countries where they've just let it go and lots of people are dying, the businesses are not doing well, where the pandemic was not taken seriously, there is a very good chance that they will go into some serious recession. Plus, they will be outcompeted against by countries like Canada, which have been far-sighted. Um, one other thing which I'll share about my experience, which may be relevant, is that as a company, I've bootstrapped it. I have been offered venture capital. I turned it down. It happened twice. I have been offered even to take my company to the stock exchange, but under the TSX Venture Fund. So there is this system by which a reverse takeover can take place. There's already a company there, a shell, and they have some money, and then you basically become that company. I didn't take that as well because I felt that the company was not ready. So my experience is one where I've effectively grown the company based on revenues I've earned from three sources. One of them is from our customers directly, and that's actually, I'd say, about half the money. The second is from the government grants. We are a technology company. The company that I'm running is called Knowit. That's GNOWIT. And we provide media monitoring using artificial intelligence. So we do a lot of R&D over there. And Canada has very generous kind of like schemes for companies that are doing cutting edge R&D. In particular, there's one called SHREDS, the Scientific Research and Experimental Development. About half the money you give to your R&D team or your technology team, or that you spend on activities related to R&D, you get it back from the government as a check after you file your taxes. And the third area where we got some money was we had some investment, and these are people who backed us. They're angels. They're people in the community, and they came in at critical times when I was actually wondering whether I should continue the company or not. I'm very grateful for their support, and it's my commitment to make sure that they end up getting a good return for the trust they've put in me. Okay, with that, I'll open the floor to questions, please.
No, great. I think that was a very thorough, rundown on, the differences between the software and the traditional startups, and also, some of your personal experiences. And I think that's why they're called angels, right? Because then they support you, at times when others kind of have less faith, or maybe, sometimes they don't have faith in you at all. So Questions are open. People can type their question in the chat window, or they can ask. They can raise a hand, or they can ask the question as well. Brother Allah and Asad, they are moderating for the questions. So if there are any questions, please feel free to go ahead. While they do that, I have a question for you, Shahzad, and especially with this COVID-19, which has just turned the world upside down. What are and these are like historic moments, right? So whenever such events happen, they create, of course, a lot of chaos, but there are opportunities that are hidden within that chaos. So as an IT, as an artificial, I don't want to call you artificially intelligent person, but you are AI expert. Can you share with us some of the trends that you're seeing in the the COVID world? Some trends that you see where people are investing either in the software side or in the traditional side.
Yeah, so this has been a watershed moment, and when I look at what's happening with COVID, this is actually a time for survival. So it's like, if people don't hit their numbers, or if you see kids playing too many video games or things like that, I mean, it's just that they if you can get out of this in one piece, and you got everything together, you got all your fingers, and you can breathe, and you're healthy. That's probably the best possible thing. So there are a lot of changes that have happened. One of the biggest one, which is that people are now beginning to become very comfortable with remote working and with digital technologies. I'd say that what would have taken 20 years to happen has been accelerated in one go. Um, I've got friends who used to travel 50 times a year. They used to get on the plane and they used to fly. They're not traveling at all anymore. And even when the coronavirus goes away, it'll be very unlikely that they will travel more than, say, 5 times a year. It's just that things have changed. So if you are in the commercial office business, maybe you won't be doing as well as you were before. However, if you are in the business of co-working spaces, where you're kind of like creating these little temporary use offices, that's an area which will be growing like anything. The companies that have done really well are companies like Zoom, which is the platform we are on. They've had thousands of times of increase in their subscribers because suddenly everyone needed to go online. The companies that are offering internet service, they're doing well. Ones that are essentially providing the kind of like the type of food delivery and these kind. The gig economy is also kind of.
Just for me.
I'm sorry, Shahbaz bhai, I couldn't hear you. Okay, so I guess can you hear me clearly? Okay, it's like yeah.
I can hear you, but I think yeah.
Okay, we might have lost our host.
It's okay. Keep going.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. Some technology happened. Probably something happened on my end. Can you hear me? And can you see me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. Yeah.
All right. So you were answering about the trends. So I think I got some of it. So, but you're right. Some of the businesses, those traditionally were successful, like commercial space. Those are out, but there are other signs that you're seeing for the some changes that you're seeing. So I have a question here now from the chat. Can you provide mentorship to what federal, provincial, municipal grants are available? SHRED is one of that Brother Shahzad mentioned. And then I'll take another, and then you can answer both. With some much intense competition in new tech startups and disruption, we don't talk about the success rate of software companies. What could you say is a typical life cycle for these companies before they succeed or vanish or get taken over?
Okay, those are two very good questions. So the first one is yes. If you ever want to learn about or just discuss opportunities for funding, I've got a lot of experience in that, and I'll be happy to help you. I'm very discoverable. So if you do a Google search for me, you'll find my email, phone number, everything online. Don't call me out of the blue. I don't pick up calls which I don't recognize. But if you send me an email or contact um, like any of the brothers, I probably am linked up with them somehow or another. Um, and the second question is, I'm sorry, Shahbaz, maybe you can quickly repeat it.
Yeah, this was. I'll repeat it for you. Not an issue. This is with so much intense competition in new tech startups and disruption. We don't talk about the success rate of software companies. What would you say is a typical life cycle for these companies before they succeed, or vanish, or get taken over?
So a very scary statistic is that 80% of companies that are started fail. And that statistics is real. Within 2 years of their starting, 80% of them fail. And the reason for that is what Brother Noman mentioned, which is that, a lot of people who start companies don't have commitment behind it. Like when I look at the companies that started at the same time as Knowit, which is my company, started, 80% of them, maybe more, have actually failed because software is a much more brutal field. But the ones that have succeeded, the owners threw everything into it to make sure it was successful. Even when it came down to it, like someone I know used to be involved in rock climbing. They used to climb these mountains. And then when they were getting some funding from a VC, because of the key man risk, they had to sign documents saying that they're not going to take any risky activities like bungee jumping and rock climbing. So they had to change their lifestyle. I used to be involved in a lot of volunteer and nonprofit capacity. I've pared that back very drastically when I started really like focusing on my startup. I'm still involved here and there, but I've gotten really good at saying no to very worthy opportunities which come in front of me. So you need to have the commitment, but the other thing you need to do is you need to kind of like be smart about what the activities you do. So with businesses, they will always have challenges, whether it is that someone slipped and they broke their leg and they sued you, or it's like your competitor has come up with a better product, or the health inspector has come and shut your restaurant down, or whatever. Your business has to be able to take a punch, or several of them. So the risks that you take, make sure that they're not existential risks which will kind of wipe out your business. You should look at it from the point of view is like, what can I invest that will likely grow my business with, and if it doesn't work out the way I was planning, it will not destroy everything. That's one. The second thing you want to do is that anytime you plan any activity, whether it is a marketing campaign or a new product or so on, you should be able to see from where you are today all the way to when the customers will adopt it. And one of the best ways to do that is to go and actually talk to your customers. Because if you don't do that, then what's happening is you're building your entire system without validating it. And there's nothing worse for a company than having excess inventory, which is like all this junk that you have built that is useless to customers. Effectively, then you've got a hobby or a science project. The third thing I do is I'd make sure that I'd start with stuff that is not necessarily fully automated or with, running with machines or with software. If you have to provide a service, you can start by providing a service just with your own efforts. And then you find ways of making it more efficient. Initially, if you're kind of like, cutting lawns, go and talk to your neighbors. And if that works, great. After a while, you're like, I'm not getting enough customers. I've got a couple of people I've hired. I want to go out there. Then you start thinking, maybe I should start printing some flyers and start putting it on mailboxes, or I should run an advertising campaign, or maybe I should hire someone, give them a checklist. They can go door to door, knock, and see if they can kind of like stir up some business for me. But each of these initiatives, they have to be something that if they don't work, they won't just bankrupt you. And if they do kind of like, work, you build on it, because whatever channel you pick, you double down on that and kind of like make it work. And this is the amazing thing about businesses versus a job, because with a job, remember, you're in a safe place. You are getting a salary every month, and you are one of a number of people in the company that is actually creating value, and then you will get whatever remuneration, whether you create incredible value or you create no value at all. The only two people in the company that are probably fairly compensated and evaluated are the CEO and the salespeople. And that's because both of them are directly in touch with the market. As a business owner or an entrepreneur, you have the luxury that you can choose which 60 hours of the week you want to work if you want to, and you can keep investing. And whatever good thing you create in the company, it will end up making your organization more resilient and more successful, and that will directly impact your options, your influence, your access to resources, your success. That's one thing. The second thing, which is really interesting, is that a lot of people, they are driven just by whatever urgent stuff happens in front of them. Like, I've got a deadline for an assignment, I will start it 3 hours before it's due. That's, and this is the norm for the vast majority of people, that they're just focusing on whatever deadlines are imposed on them, or they've got to pay a bill, they've got to appear somewhere, they're invited. But as a business owner, you can think long term, and instead of focusing on what is urgent, you can also focus on what is really important, because the stuff that's long term, which is not urgent, but where you're investing, and this is the equivalent of like you going and spending 4 years to get a degree. That's not something that you need. No one says you got to get a degree, right? Except for maybe your parents. But if you get a degree, it opens up so many opportunities for you. So if you say that, I'm going to go and create a CRM based system that I can deal with my customers better, this is maybe a 3-month kind of like, investment of your time and energy, and it'll cost money, and you'll have to hire people and so on. But this is the type of decision you make because you're focusing on what's important. You're thinking about what's beyond the horizon. And this is the way you want to think. You want to think a bit longer term, but at the same time, you don't want to have this investment in the CRM be something that will bankrupt your company if it doesn't work.
Great. No, I think very thorough response, Shahzad. Dr. Rahman, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Brother Shahbaz was saying in terms of being ready and looking at the future. I was interviewing a very successful entrepreneur sometimes back for an article I used to write for the Globe and Mail, and I was trying to find how does he kind of plan, how does he kind of get ready for the unexpected, because as Brother Shahzad will attest to the fact that unexpected things happen all the time, right? So he was trying to explain it to me, and I was not getting it. I was getting a bit, frustrated. So he said, "Okay, let me explain it to you very simply. When you're driving at night, how far can you see?" So I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Like when you're driving a car at night, how far can you see?" And I said, "I can only see as far as the headlights, shine.
Yep.
That's how much I can see." And he said, exactly. So when you are an entrepreneur, there's only so much you can see.
Yes.
And beyond that, you cannot see. But the important thing for an entrepreneur is to be ready to either brake if there's some kind of a car in front of you, turn right, turn left, be always ready, but still have enough vision to be able to see, where you're going, in what direction you're going. And that was such a great analogy that he, painted that I just loved it, and I share it with my students in entrepreneurship that, look here, just imagine you're driving a car at night. There's only so far you can see, but always be ready for the unexpected.
That's right. No, I think that's a great example, and it's a great segue into our third part of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see the quality of our program tonight. It is as good as CNN Business. So please, stay tuned. Stay patient, because now we have talked much about the brain food, from Dr. Noman and Dr. Shahzad. Now, some real food. Danish, over to you. So just an introduction. Danish is our great friend from the community. He is actually living and breathing what Shahzad just said. That if you can do two things together, and I think Dr. Noman also kind of said that you can the best way is to burn your boats and then jump on one side so that you're focused. But this gentleman has been blessed by Allah that he can focus on so many things. So how do you do that, Danish? Can you take us to the secrets of your successful professional life and your successful venture?
So Shahbaz bhai, Shahbaz bhai, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I think you've painted me with a very broad brush, but having said that, the line of business that I am in, or that I'm going to talk about today, is not as fancy as Shahzad, and I may not be as articulate as Dr. Farooqi, but I'll try and get onto this. So the line of business that I'm going to talk about is food business. This is another area where it has been growing, at least in the past 10-15 years. It has grown significantly, and it is still experiencing almost 5% growth annually. If you see the halal food market, at this point, it is anywhere between $2.3 trillion to $3.1 trillion globally. And very interesting thing for us living in Canada, is that the largest growth is seen in North America right now.
Danish, I think we've lost you. Shahzad, can you hear Danish?
No, I can't even see him. Oh, he's there.
Are we all back?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So did I disconnect before? Did you hear anything, or it just got disconnected and
you're giving us some stats about the industry, and you were talking about North America.
Yeah, you mentioned there's a 5% growth, and then after that we got cut.
Okay. So,
So Danish, I think we cannot still hear you, and I think.
Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you can. You can go ahead. Maybe if you can. Basically, close your video, and then maybe the voice will improve. Danish, we still can't hear you.
Shahbaz, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. So I think you can keep it off video,
okay.
So that you can.
Shahbaz, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Maybe it's my. Yeah, maybe it's my video.
Yeah, after you speak, then I will.
Yeah. So I was.
The secret of
the point that I was trying to make earlier was that if we. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So what I was trying to say is that as far as halal business is concerned, as far as and this again just coming from my experience, which is mostly related to food business, if anybody wants to get into this business, I think we are sitting in the right place, because this is where most of the growth in halal business is being registered right now. So this was just like a couple of fun facts that I wanted to share. Now, as Shahbaz mentioned early on that I will be talking about food business. I think Canada is at that stage where we are experiencing a growth in Muslim population, whether it's by virtue of immigration, whether it's by virtue of this, all the movement around different cities and people coming in from different parts of the world. For food, Canada has grown almost at 15% a year. This is at least in the past 5 years, our growth rate has been almost 15% a year. Within that food business, now there are restaurants, there are trading, there is, as many of us know, there are a lot of, for people who've been living here for past 15 years, the different types of food that we can get in Canada now are a lot more than what we would be able to get at 15 years ago, and that is the what should I say, uh, the sign of growth that an opportunity that Canada is providing to all of us in terms of food business. So I will move into my line of business. I'm sorry, I'm just getting messages on my phone. Okay. So what we do as, or the business opportunity that I, I'm connected with along with a few friends is basically establishing a virtual kitchen. Now I will explain what a virtual kitchen is, and then we'll take it from there. So the virtual kitchen basically is a kitchen which is literally, I would say, a hole in a wall, because we don't have a front, we don't have a dining in facility, we don't have anything like that. All we do is that orders are placed through platforms which are like Uber, Skip, and DoorDash, and it's just the driver that comes in and the food is delivered through them. Excuse me, just 1 second. So, Shahbaz, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay, that's fine. So, basically, the virtual kitchen model is, like I said, it's basically it's a very a low operational cost model, where to manage the business, to operate the business, it's very, very simple, and it's pretty much a one-man operation. And as Dr. Farooqi would know as well, that the biggest expense that we have in any business, especially in any small business, is the cost of operations, which basically, and the cost of resources that are deployed to manage and operate a business. And by this model, what we do is we have reduced all of that cost, and it's basically literally can be a one-man operation. Now, coming to what the opportunity that we got and how we maximize that. What we did was, as a team, because creating a virtual kitchen is fairly simple. Anybody who is interested in opening a food business can basically create a kitchen, create their platform, and market their kitchen on Uber or DoorDash or Skip, or any of those platforms that are available. But where we differentiate from the rest of them, or the idea that we came up with, was to try and persuade a franchise to basically be able to establish a virtual kitchen. So this concept overall was, I would say, that is probably, I can safely say that in North America, this is the only virtual. Can you hear me, Shahbaz?
Yeah, continue. So Danish, I think no, thank you very much for that. I think somehow we lost you somewhere in the middle because of some internet connectivity, and I think I should advertise Fido for that. Choppy. So the internet connection that Danish and I share is by Fido. We thought it would be great, but somehow it has.
Sorry, I can.
Yeah, so it's all right. Danish, so my question.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, Mahmood bhai, you had a question. Mahmood Sheikh, go ahead. What was your question?
Assalamu alaikum. So thank you for organizing this program. I have a somewhat of a mundane question. So if I want to start a business, right, and I am, say me or anybody, there's one person who is the promoter, okay, and then he, he wants to start a halal business. So he doesn't want to borrow from the bank. So he gets a bunch of Muslims and say, hey, guys, come together and, say my business is $100,000. And all of us, so 10 partners put $10,000 each. But I'm the one who's promoting the business. Like, I'm the person who is running the business. The 9 other people are like sleeping partners. So how do you structure that company or that shareholding, or so that the person who is working, who is putting all his sweat in the business development, gets rewarded, and of course people who are contributing as other 9 shareholders are rewarded accordingly. So how do you structure that? Is there like a guidance or a website or any ideas you have?
So, Dr. Faruqi, Dr. Shahzad, Danish, who would like to take this?
Yeah, I can give some suggestions.
Yeah.
So what you have is
Shahbaz,
essentially.
sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
The question,
Sorry, Shahbaz.
I think, yeah, it was about, I think
Sorry,
Shahzad has
Shahzad, yeah,
picked
go
up,
ahead.
so
I
you're
can hear
lucky
the
you
question.
didn't hear that, so you'll get ready for the next question. Shahzad, you can answer this one.
Sure.
And Danish, there is a question for you. I'll just repeat it. I'll just mention it to you. That somebody has
Okay.
asked, can you please explain how this virtual kitchen works? So, keep this in mind. After Shahzad, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so what you have in the scenario is one person who has started a business, right? So when you start the business, this person will ideally, since he's taking money from other people, you want to incorporate it. That way that, that person's liability will be limited to whatever money is in the business. In case there's any problem, then these people cannot, or other debtors cannot go and take his house and his other wealth. So this is one of the mechanisms that exists in a modern society, where you can have what is called limited liability. So whenever you incorporate a company, the advantage you get is that the liability is limited to whatever is in the company, unless you do fraud or you take the money from investors and enrich yourself. Then they can come after you personally. So in this case, this individual would initially own 100% of all the shares of this company. The people who are then investing in the company, they will get some shares based on what the value of the company is after the investment has been added to the company. So when someone else invests in the company, it's worth more, not just because of the fact that that money is now part of the assets of the company. And this is just your standard double entry accounting, where it's like either equity or income that's coming in causes an increase in the assets. But it also means that the company has more credibility. It has a bigger support network. It is something more real than just a PowerPoint slide and a website and a business card that someone has put together, which you can effectively do in like a day if you want, right? And the person who is putting in the effort, he owns shares in the company, but because he's also spending his time and energy, he's at the same time got a second role as an executive or an employee of the company. So he should get paid a fair wage. A lot of times what happens with startups is that the people who are actually started the company, they end up taking far less as a salary than what they would be worth if they're working for someone else. And the reason for this is because they own equity in the company, and they're hoping that as the company becomes more successful, the return that they get from the equity, as the company becomes more valuable, the pie grows, right? It will be much greater than the money they would have gotten if they had gotten a full salary working somewhere else. That's effectively what you're doing. You're investing your time, you're investing your energy, you're taking risks, you're really focusing and giving up a lot of other things in your life with the idea that you'll create something of value. And this does not have to be a software company. It could be a food truck, right? Because that food truck that you create will have a certain number of clients that will be coming, and they are, every time you get more clients and they're coming back regularly, the value of the company goes up. It'll have equipment it's bought, it'll have a brand. So it's like there is always a multiple that, if you make like $1 million a year, if you're basically a corner shop, you're worth about like $1.2 million. If you are a company which is growing, you're worth far more. And if you are in software, you may be worth anytime from 3x to 200x the revenues that you're making in that year. And this is not profits, it's just revenues, right? It's the money that your customers are giving to you. So in short, the compensation that this individual will get will be as a salary and as a part of equity. He will want to incorporate, and he'll want to negotiate the value of what this company is worth. And offer shares to the people who are investing in the company. And these people who are investing in the company, they'll have, aside from the shares, they also have a couple of other rights. They could nominate one or more of them to sit on the board of the company. So they make decisions about whether the company will be liquidated, whether it will take loans and all that. So they have representatives, almost like a member of parliament. And they also can do things like they can vote on what happens with the company. But a lot of times, if they're just silent partners, you want them to not be kind of like having those voting rights. So this is area where either you can get some advice from someone who's already done it, or you can engage with a lawyer. A lawyer will charge you about $10,000 to $15,000 for incorporating a company because of all this complexity that's there. In reality, it only costs $200 to incorporate a company. That's all it takes, and maybe $50 if you want to get a particular name. But just to make sure all this other stuff is there so that there's no lawsuits in the future, you want to either work with someone who's more experienced, even if it's just getting advice or so on, um, or you want to work with maybe one of the local regional development centers. Like in Ottawa, we have Invest Ottawa. Their job is to basically help companies grow and succeed. In Toronto, we have the Mars Discovery District. There are a lot of resources available there, whether in terms of courses or people that will actually mentor you and give you advice. They might even be able to give you access to lawyers that are deeply discounted rate to help you establish the hygiene of this venture at the beginning, so there's no problems later on.
So thank you, Shahzad.
Thank you.
We are now entering our last 15 minutes of the program. If anybody has questions, please raise your hand and ask questions. We still have with us, thank you, Dr. Rahman, Dr. Shahzad, and Danish. Danish, there was a question for you. Somebody asked, to know more about Virtual Kitchen, what it is, and, how can, so I think somebody answered that on the chat, but if you want to add some more thoughts into it.
Sure. So the question was specific to the type of restaurant it is, or like what's the model? That's
the question is, can you please explain again how is this? What is a virtual kitchen?
Right.
So when you say virtual, it doesn't really mean virtual in a sense that it is online, right? So, but there is an actual kitchen behind which is supporting the requirements of the customers. And while you answer that, if you can also kind of shed light on the current situation that we see in the COVID, when we see hundreds of thousands of restaurants closing, and we really feel sorry for them. There's a very significant livelihood that we see is being lost at the expense of COVID. In this backdrop, how do you see your virtual kitchen model to succeed?
Yeah, so first of all, I apologize. I think my network is not as good. It wasn't working as good, so I got disconnected for a bit. So
now you can, if it is working well, you can put your video on so that people can see you as well.
I will try. I hope it does not die because of my video.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So, okay, it's fine for now. Okay, that's good. So, to start with the virtual kitchen, basically, virtual kitchen is literally a physical kitchen. It is just that it is not like a conventional restaurant that we see. It's not going to be like McDonald's. It's not going to be like any other restaurant where you just walk in and order and just you dine in or take the food out. Here, the model is that you don't get to see the restaurant, or you do not literally walk into a restaurant. All the orders that you make are through the delivery platforms. So there are three major delivery platforms in Ottawa right now. It's Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Skip the Dishes. And these are the platforms that you use to place an order and get food delivered at home. So it's literally that, and that's why it's called virtual, because you don't really have to go and order your food there, then pick up physically or dine in. So the only option that you have is probably just go home and eat. Like Shahbaz mentioned that with reference to COVID, how did this work for us? I would say that by the grace of God, we were ahead of the curve when COVID hit, because right at the time when everybody was bleeding, unfortunately, and I have seen that there were so many of our colleagues within the franchise that we work for who literally had to shut down, or they couldn't really manage their operating expenses and everything to run a restaurant. We were everybody was skeptical. Nobody wanted to walk into a restaurant, and that's still the case. Not people are still skeptical about walking into a restaurant and picking up food or dining in or anything. So the only option that we have is just order online and the food get delivered at home. And this is exactly why there has been very significant growth in online food business, and we have been ahead of the curve in that and succeeded very well in that. Now, as far as this model is concerned, like I said, or I was saying when I disconnected, that a good thing is that when we started this is the first franchise in North America that's actually gone virtual. Normally, there are smaller businesses or small restaurants, one restaurant, two restaurants that are actually offering online delivery and pickup or on a virtual model. And we are the only franchise that is doing that. So, and then coming to, I think somebody earlier on when Dr. Farooqi was talking, asked a question, what is, I think it was related to like, what is a low cost for setting up a business or something to that effect. So I would say that if somebody is looking for a low cost
versus
but
low commitment,
definitely not low commitment business model. Yeah, exactly. So I would say that if somebody is looking for a low cost business but not low commitment, because you definitely have to commit your time, your energy, and your passion into this, then starting up a virtual kitchen anywhere would be a phenomenal idea. It's something you can easily manage. You can, it's like I said earlier also, it's a one-man operation. Start with that and it would be phenomenal. If anybody needs any ideas, or if somebody has any ideas that they want to share with us, I'll be more than happy to help them out, because we have our experiences, we have seen so much growth, and we can definitely guide whoever is interested in doing anything like that. So I hope I answered the question on virtual.
No, I think you did well. We've heard that the biggest expense or the biggest killer for the food industry is the rental. So how do you see that playing to your advantage in a virtual kitchen compared to a traditional kitchen, a traditional restaurant?
Okay, this is a very good question, Shahbaz Syed. So basically what happens is that if you see, we've always been, whoever studies marketing, one thing they always teach you in marketing is location. Your location has to be perfect for anything to be successful. I would say that with this new model of business supported heavily by the pandemic, this would probably change a little bit in the new marketing books that will come up, because for models like virtual kitchen, we really don't need a location. All we need to make sure is that it doesn't have to be in a mall, or it doesn't have to be in any place where it's visible. I mean, literally nobody has to even know that there's a kitchen anywhere, as long as you are within the geofenced deliverable location for the platforms, and that is what matters. So you can literally be a room somewhere where nobody even knows, but as long as the driver can come in and pick up the food from there, you are in business. And that basically leads to Shahbaz, what you were asking earlier, that because it is not the location, the rents are not obviously the same. So we're not paying like 8,000, 10,000, 15,000 rents, which we normally pay in a mall or any of those high-end locations with high traffic. This can be set up in a very low cost. This can be a very low cost model set up on maybe a $2,000, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 rental space, and you're good to go.
So from your days at the London School of Economics and then University of Ottawa Business School, do you think this model can support youth? Like, can they run it, while they're studying? What if youth are interested in your virtual kitchen model? How can they, work?
Okay, so again, like I said, this is this this question would vary from person to person. To be honest, it depends on how much passion and how much energy you have and how much time you're willing to give to a business like this. If you're asking me whether it's doable, for sure it is doable. That's definitely not a question. It's just that what is the level of your commitment, and if you're committed to do that, definitely you can manage it.
All right. Thank you, Danish. Thank you, Danish. So we have some minutes left, so I will open the floor for our participants online. Any question, everyone, please feel free to ask to our respected panel. You can still type in chat, or you can ask it yourself. So I think people are now mesmerized by the wisdom that you three have shared. Thank you very much for that. I would like to basically give the floor back to you. Starting from Dr. Noman, then Shahzad, and then Danish. Or maybe this time in the reverse order, starting from Danish, Shahzad, and then Dr. Noman. Just 1-2 liners about any concluding remarks that you would like to share with us, Danish.
Yes. So once again, can you hear me, Shahbaz?
Yeah.
Is it
we can
clear?
hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing, what I would like to say is out of my own personal experience. I have also been, like Shahzad also mentioned, that the biggest challenge is to take that leap of faith. Everybody likes that comfort of getting a monthly paycheck and doing your jobs. We are all educated people. We earn decent money wherever we work, but moving from there and taking that leap of faith to get into a business, it's always I won't say it's tough, but it's something that you have to take that first step to be able to explore what is ahead of you. And it has not been easy for us as well, me and my team, when we started working, because we were all public servants and working in consulting jobs and here and there and everywhere. But once we got into that, it has helped us so much that at this point, whether it's this food business or any other business idea, we don't really think twice before taking a decision. And that confidence has come out of that first step that we took. So to the participants, I would say that whoever is thinking about it, definitely you all need to do your due diligence. That is extremely important, because you can't just jump into anything unknown. But at the same time, do try. If you have time, if you have energy, do try that. It is actually worth it. Get into any business that you're passionate about, or you think that you can succeed. But don't just keep the ideas to yourself, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's definitely it's worthless. I would say the idea, if it's not executed upon. But you should definitely do that. I'm sure Shahzad would agree with me, because he's done that way before I did, and in a much riskier field than what I decided to get into. But it's it's really worth it. You guys should definitely try. It will give you a lot of experience, a lot of confidence in and the ability to take much bigger decisions as you move along the way.
Thank you, Danish. Over to you, Shahzad.
Thank you very much. I'll basically build on what Danish said. The most important attribute is the commitment. And the biggest resource you have to bear on the business is yourself. And the biggest risk factor you also have to deal with is yourself, because the second you lose the commitment, because you're like, this is so much work. I've been kind of like, someone has lied to me, or something bad happened. I lost money. I haven't got a client for the first year. I've only made like $300 and I've spent 10,000. You're likely to give up, right? So it is possible to run a business along with your day job. It is possible to do that, but as Dr. Farooq mentioned, you got to see how far your headlight will be able to illuminate, right? So if you do something like that, you are not looking at building something that is going to be world changing or global, or maybe even like, employing other people. Maybe just something you do on the side. I know people who basically are photographers. They have a hobby, they've got a camera and everything, and they used to go to weddings and they used to take pictures. Not so much nowadays because the weddings are not happening, right? But that was a business they used to run on the side. So you pick something which you'll enjoy and which will earn you money. And ideally, it's something that will allow you to build on something that you like. If you like programming, maybe do some freelance programming online or create a little website that you can offer as a service. Um, if you like writing, start a blog and make some money off advertising. But you got to be consistent. It's the equivalent of writing a book that people used to do in the past. If you are athletic, there is a whole bunch of stuff over there. If you're good at academics, maybe run some tuitions. Um, get involved with one of these marketplaces where you can be hired as a tutor and then go and help a high school student or secondary student with the skills that you have, right? So you can always do these things on the side, and they will give you the experiences you need to learn how to do the budgeting, how to make the sale, how to kind of like do the customer service, deal with the crises and so on. So that experience is important. And if you can get that yourself by doing stuff, but you can also get it by working for a startup or a small company. And you should always make sure that you have one or more mentors that have already gone further down this journey who can kind of help you out. Because some of the questions you have, like the ones, for example, Brother Mahmood Sheikh was asking, is not stuff that most people come across. Like, how do you fairly get compensated in a venture? I mean, if you're a lawyer or an academic or you've got an MBA, these are things that you've probably learned. But the people who are doing business, they deal with this every day. The negotiations and the structuring of the win-win are sometimes very creative. So just get some experience, but do it in a way that you won't hurt yourself. You don't want to be like this person I know who started a company and ended up $300,000 in debt, right? So don't kind of
No,
like
play
say
safe.
that.
Yeah, play safe. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Shahzad. And Dr. Numan, over to you, sir, and your final words, and then we will wrap up the session.
Thank you, Shahbaz. I echo, the comments made by Danish and Dr. Shahzad, and uh, I think so. The important thing that they mentioned, commitment and really kind of enjoying what you do, and doing a kind of something on the side to begin with. I know somebody who really loves working out, and he has monetized that by especially in this COVID day, he's become a virtual trainer. So as he's doing his exercise, he's got his camera on, he's got a couple of people on the other side, he's training them, giving them tips, and he's making money. So he would work out anyways, but he's now making money out of that, right? The My father was an entrepreneur, he was a businessman, and one of the things that he really kind of ingrained in me was, and alhamdulillah, I'm lucky, I kind of enjoy what I do, but he said most of the times, people get into careers and jobs that they really are not passionate about, right? And he said, wouldn't it be great that you love what you do, that you wake up in the morning and you are looking forward to doing something. It's not, oh my God, I have to go and do a job and I've got to report to this boss and I got to do that. And I got to come back at 5, and he was driven by that. He was driven by that excitement of the unknown, and that return that he got, not only obviously monetary return, but also the pride and the enjoyment of creating something, a business, a venture, creating employment, creating opportunity for other people. And the reward that you get out of that, is significant. You get a high, and probably Danish and Dr. Shahzad can attest to that. You get a high when you hit that. It's like playing a sport, and you want to have another high. You want to have another high. So I would really encourage people to explore and not be shy. You don't want to be 60 years old and saying, oh my God, I should have tried that, earlier on. Make those educated, calculated risks that you can make without losing your shirt, make sure, because now, if you're doing it at a later point in your life, you've got family, you've got kids, you can't bet your house and start something. So be careful and then gradually kind of see how you can pace yourself and get out there. And it's a beautiful, wonderful world. Many opportunities every day are being created for people like all of us to really benefit from. So thank you all of the organizers, and especially Shahbaz for inviting me. And I have not been able to travel out to New Brunswick, so at least I can say that I visited Ottawa now.
Now you have a following in Canada, so next time you visit, we'll have in-person session for you. I think at this high note, we will wrap up today's session. So I think we can all attest to the wisdom that was shared today in terms of passion, commitment, taking some calculated risks, being positive about things. And business, as we also Shahzad mentioned that starting a business is probably an hour's job, but committing to it and running it for a longer time requires a lot of patience and commitment. And we can all see as far as the headlight sees, as Dr. Naman mentioned. And of course, we have limited vision, but Allah has bigger vision. So we tie our camel and then we leave it to Allah. So this was in my opinion, a great session. We learned a lot from our three speakers. Thank you very much, Danesh. Thank you very much, Shahzad and Dr. Numan. So thank you very much to you for coming all the way virtually from New Brunswick. So we really appreciate your time, all of you, and to my participants, who joined us tonight, on this KMA meet and tea. We did not serve you tea. Now it's the time that you can go back and have your tea. And next session will be, you are having your tea. There you go. And next week we will have another session with Dr. Ashfaq Ahmed on kids career. So now signing off, and good night, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.